So, greetings, singularitarians, fellow humans, or however you perceive yourself as this essence you are. Today we want to talk about criticism of Ray Kurzweil's concept, the singularity. And this one comes from Paul Allen, and he says, no, the singularity isn't near. He doesn't exclude that the singularity happens, but he's very skeptical. Now, who's Paul Allen? He's one of the co-founders of Microsoft. Unfortunately, he already died at the, what I believe, young age of 65. And yeah, he was definitely interested in AI and also one of the important figures in the field of software development. Of course, I mean, he did Microsoft, right? So what does he say? Well, he looks at the singularity claimed by Werner Winch and Ray Kurzweil, who say that at some point human machines will be incredibly smart and smarter than human beings. And after that point of the singularity, namely when that happens, it is impossible to predict how the future unfolds. Of course, they have some ideas because the singularity is kind of an idea of the unity of the universe, and historically not much will happen anymore except that we make one discovery after another, and maybe it happens all at one moment in time, or that occurs to us to be one moment in time because it's just so unbelievably fast. Yeah, so the superhuman intelligence will be incomprehensible to us, and it will be completely different from what we have experienced in our life so far. Kurzweil is very optimistic about that. It seems to be more optimistic than Werner Winch, and he envisions a future in which developments in medical nanotechnology will allow us to download a copy of our individual brains into these superhuman machines, leave our bodies behind, and in a sense live forever. And yeah, so that's the claim. I'm always a bit surprised because even if I get a copy of myself on another computer, I would still be here. So what do I benefit from the fact to have this twin AI out there? It seems to me that's like similar to having a human twin. Just because I have a twin who looks almost identical like me and who has the same genetic material, I don't say, well, good enough, I can leave because myself lives on, right? I don't know what just this copying means. So it seems we still have to keep a connection in this process, right? And what do we do? Do we then just say, well, while the connection is established, well, now I kill my human body? So that's already always a weird claim to me. Nevertheless, let's get to the text. So he says, well, singularity might occur one day. I just want to make the argument that it is not near. And he focuses on Ray Kurzweil's law of accelerating returns. We have already explained that it's a play on the idea of diminished returns, but in terms of technology, the returns are just accelerating, and he observes that through the 6 epochs that we will discuss soon, where Kurzweil also says like the biological rate of returns was actually exponential. And then the claim is that the singularity will arrive around 2045. Yay! So make your investments until then, become smart until then, because afterwards your smartness won't matter anymore, except you merge with the AI. Okay, so we acknowledge that it is possible, but highly unlikely. I wonder if Paul Allen wrote that with someone together. That's just a minor thing, but oh, Mark Reeves. Okay, Mark Reeves also wrote that. I don't know who that is. I just read the name Paul Allen. Okay. An adult brain is a finite thing, so its basic workings can ultimately be known through sustained human effort. Well, I mean, that's a claim, right? Don't want to be too nitpicky here, but maybe there's a barrier for understanding, a limit that we hit. And even though it's a finite thing, maybe there are finite things that we cannot understand. Maybe the universe is a finite and not an infinite thing. Still, be possible that we cannot understand it because there's a limit for even understanding finite things. Nevertheless, that's not the major claim here. I'm just a bit nitpicky. So let's go on. But if the singularity is to arrive 2045, it will take unforeseeable and fundamentally unpredictable breakthroughs, and not because the law of accelerating returns made it inevitable, the inevitable result of specific exponential rate of progress. Well, yeah, I mean, this is really a bit of a question, right? Like, how much is the law of accelerating returns, which is an empirically derived law, really a law? Or might it just break? So raising this question is very reasonable. I wonder, however, if you can raise the question in a way that you say, it's not going to happen 2045. That's a problem that I have with Paul Allen's text here. So there are assertions, he talks about the law of accelerating returns. There are assertions about how past rates of scientific and technical progress can predict the future rate. Therefore, like other attempts to forecast the future from the past, these laws will work until they don't. And this is also an interesting forecast, right? He says, well, you know, these laws, as all forecasts, work until they don't. This is my forecast. But how long is this forecast going to work? Until it doesn't? Kind of weird what he claims here. So I think he needs a little bit more foundation to make these claims. Supposing that there will be a constant supply of increasingly more powerful computing capabilities, yeah, this is not so important. So yeah, he says that the extrapolations that Kurzweil uses for the law of accelerating returns is presupposing that we will have more and more powerful computing capabilities. The advances in capability have to occur not only in a computer's hardware technology, but also in the software we create to run on these more capable computers. To achieve the singularity isn't enough to just run today's software faster. We would also need to build smarter and more capable software programs. Creating this kind of advanced software requires a prior scientific understanding of the foundations of human cognition, and we are just scraping the surface of that. So, and here are two problems that I have with this sentence. First, it seems, I'm not entirely sure, but it seems he says that Ray Kurzweil just says that our computing power gets better and better. And I don't think that's what he says. I think he says, well, look, scientific progress occurs. Maybe not just in one field, maybe it slows down in one field, but then he says the inventions in other fields, they take up that progress and just advance it further beyond its level. So it does not have to be a steady progress in one field. And I think that Kurzweil is well aware that there's also software involved. Now, one point about this essay is it was written in 2011. So it was before we saw like the breakthroughs with vast data mining in how's it called, deep thought technology, like the neural network computing, however it is called. I don't know the right name, but you will know what I mean. So this is the first problem I have with the sentence. And the second one is that he presupposes that we want to understand and maybe ultimately copy human cognition with computers. And I think that's a false view. I think computers are already better than humans in many branches. And at some point, all of these branches may be connected and then they just pass the human brain. I don't think we are in the state where we want to build a replicate of the human brain and say, look, this computer is as good as humans. I think once computers are smarter than humans, or as smart as humans, they will simultaneously be much smarter than human beings. And having that said, it's maybe not even that the architecture that computers are going to use must be like humans. It can be entirely different different as long as they're smarter. And if they're smarter, we don't need to understand human brains, and we also don't need to understand how these computers work. So, and this is the major problem I have with this text. So this prior need to understand the basic science of cognition is where the singularity's near arguments fail to persuade us. And I say, yeah, you haven't thought enough about these arguments. However, creating the software for real singularity level computer intelligence will require fundamental scientific progress beyond where we are today. This kind of progress is very different than the Moore law style evolution of computer hardware capabilities that inspired Kurzweil and Winch. And see, the point is that they don't apply Moore's law just to the progress of computer hardware. They see Moore's law in everything. It's the law of accelerating returns that applies to technology as we know it nowadays, and that also applies to, for example, evolution. This means not just knowing the physical structure of the brain, but also how the brain reacts and changes, and how billions of parallel neurons interactions can result in human consciousness and original thought. Getting this kind of comprehensive understanding of the brain is not impossible. If the singularity is going to occur on anything like Kurzweil's timeline, though, then we absolutely require a massive acceleration of our scientific progress in understanding every facet of the human brain. And again, I say no, we don't need to understand the human brain necessarily. It may give us great progress if we understand the human brain, that then we also can simulate it on a computer. It may be involved, but it's not necessary. So overall, scientific progress in understanding the brain rarely resembles an orderly, inexorable march to the truth, let alone an exponentially accelerating one. Instead, scientific advances are often irregular, with unpredictable flashes of insight punctuating the slow grinded out lab work of creating and testing theories that can fit with experimental observations. Truly significant conceptual breakthroughs don't arrive when predicted, and so on and so forth. And the argument that he tries to use here against Kurzweil is that if you look at a singular field of research, progress cannot be just predicted. You cannot just put money into a university and they come out with a great invention. They won't just invent, let's say, nuclear fusion because you have put a lot of money in there. That's certainly true. And in that view, it looks very random. But what Ray Kurzweil does, he filters out the noise. As much as you cannot know that much when a single stock will rise, you can still invest in the MSCI world, and you take the average growth of all the large cap companies that you have according to a certain index, and then you filter out the noise of one single stock, let's say one single tech company that invests a lot of money in nuclear fusion. And we could do the same. We could say, okay, we have maybe an index that replicates all technology companies that there are on Earth. Maybe we don't have all. And the claim of Kurzweil, as I understand him, is that in that instance, we will see exponential growth because they all feed into each other. And it's not necessary that we just make exponential progress in one field. It is even very likely that some of these research fields might just stop and don't make progress for the next 2,000 years. Maybe that's on understanding the human brain. Maybe we don't understand the human brain, but still we could maybe have smarter machines than humans, even though we don't understand why that is. So he calls this the complexity break. The foregoing points add a basic issue with how quickly a scientifically adequate account of human intelligence can be developed. We call this issue the complexity break. And he gives an example again. The complexity of the brain is simply awesome. Awesome, dude. Every structure has been precisely shaped by millions of years of evolution to do a particular thing, whatever it might be. It is not like a computer with billions of identical transistors in regular memory arrays that are controlled by a CPU with a few different elements. In the brain, every individual structure and neural circuit has been individually refined by evolution and environmental factors. So yeah, he speaks here for the complexity of the brain, which I agree, we shouldn't be too arrogant and say, well, you know, the brain is very simple. What the mind really is a chain of causality, and scientists have already figured that out. No, I also think from even the standpoint of 10 years later, we're not that close. Maybe you correct myself. Maybe you correct me. If you say, no, actually we are very close. I'm not so much a neuroscientist. I just know Dennett, right? But if you say, no, actually we are very close now to understand the human brain, how all these cycles feed into each other, let me know in the comments. I would be interested in that. Like, who do I have to read for that? From the perspective of philosophy, that was my major field where I did my PhD, right? Not in that particular field, though. It was more epistemology and theory of sciences, right? But like what I know from the seminars that I've taken on these issues is that we don't know yet what the human brain is about. And he says it here. It's like so complex because it was forged and made over billions of years through trial and error, but maybe not only trial and error, but intelligent genetical programs that were installed in us that by like a process of also involved contingency just improved this neurological machine that we carry on top of our body. Okay, we believe that one day this steady increase in complexity will end. The brain is, after all, a finite set of neurons and operates according to physical principles. Yes, so one day we will understand it. That's what he says. I'm not so sure about it. Maybe we never understand what souls are, but that's not the point, right? We want to say, like, how likely is it that we pass human-like intelligence? And I don't think that he has yet made very strong arguments. I think what he had to do is just to give us a review of the current level of research and say, see, this is where computers are. This is where our knowledge of the human brain is. This is where human intelligence is. And computers are not better yet. But how likely can he show that to us? So this would be a solid argument. And then you could say, well, see, what Kurzweil says is exponential growth. Even if it grows exponentially, it will not be in the year 2045. But I don't see an argument in that yet. He just says there's a complexity break. We are not yet close enough with our scientific research in neurosciences. Therefore, it's not going to happen. There are so many breakthroughs that have to occur. But I say, first of all, you didn't give me enough evidence. It's just like hearsay, right? You maybe heard that somewhere, or did you actually research that? I'm not sure about that. You don't give me any sources, right? So therefore, I would say this is not like necessarily a very good article. But the second thing is also like, is this complexity break enough of an argument? And that was what I focused on, and I don't think it is. Yeah, so this is what he says, and he then says, yeah, okay, we also have tried to construct computers, but they all just develop single skills and don't combine them yet. And of course, this is like the holy grail of AI research. When can we combine all of these skills that there's kind of one computer consciousness? I say consciousness, not meaning that it's necessarily similar to human consciousness, but when is that going to occur that unifies all these different capabilities of what computers can do right now? And we may not be so far from it. We may be, we may not be. How can we know? That's the question. Okay, this was what I wanted to say for today. Again, you can tell me maybe if you think we are already pretty close in understanding the human brain, let me know. You can also let me know how close we are with computer technology to replace human beings. Are we very far? Are we light years away? Just remember, once they said it will take 30 years at least until computers can beat humans in Go. And then it just happened. Lee Sedol just lost, I believe, 4 out of 5 games. One game he made an incredibly interesting and godlike move, but since then, no human has won against AlphaGo anymore, as much as I'm informed. Okay, however, I don't want to expand that. Thank you very much. Please subscribe the channel, add me on Twitter, add me on Facebook, add me wherever, support me. That would be nice. And let's read the Singularities Near Together and maybe also some other books. I would be very happy if you join me on that journey. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.